You know, I've spent years training my body, sharpening my mind, and pushing past limits most people wouldn't dare touch. But let me tell you something. Failure, real failure, is the ultimate teacher. And if there's one person who stared down failure and laughed, it's Elon Musk. So, what if he lost everything tomorrow? What would he do differently? Let's break it down, not as a billionaire, but as someone who's mastered the art of starting over. First thing, he'd stop chasing perfection. Yeah, you heard me. In sports, we call this paralysis by analysis. You overthink the play, the technique, the strategy, and by the time you move, the moment's gone. Elon's said it himself. If you're not failing, you're not innovating. So if he lost everything, he wouldn't waste time building the perfect plan. He'd start ugly, messy, unfinished, because momentum beats perfection every single time. Think about it. When you're at rock bottom, your only job is to move. Not to philosophize, not to optimize, just move. Next, he'd double down on first principles. Let me explain. In training, first principles are the non-negotiables. For a sprinter, it's stride length and frequency. For a weightlifter, it's form under pressure. For Elon, it's physics. Math, the raw fundamentals. If he lost everything, he wouldn't clutter his mind with trends, opinions, or how everyone else does it. He'd ask, what's true? What's essential? What can't be stripped away? That's how you rebuild. Strip everything back to the bones. No ego, no fluff, just the truth. Here's a big one. He'd bet on asymmetric opportunities. In sports, asymmetric means high reward, low risk. A move that costs little but could change the game. Elon's done this his whole career. SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink. But if he started over, he'd look for the one thing nobody else sees. The undervalued skill, the hidden market. The problem everyone ignores. Because when you've got nothing, you can't afford to play safe. You need upside. You need to swing for the fences, but with precision, not recklessness. Now, let's talk mental scaffolding. You think Elon's immune to doubt, to fear? No way. But here's the difference. He doesn't feed it. Athletes know this. When you're down 3 sets in a match, you don't focus on the score. You focus on the next point, the next breath. If he lost everything, he'd build a mental routine immediately. Morning visualization, affirmations, gratitude. Not because it's trendy, because your mind is a muscle. If you don't train it, it will betray you. Oh, and he'd outwork everyone, but smarter. Hard work's a given. But smart work? That's the secret. In sports, we call it training specificity. If you want to run faster, you don't just run miles, you drill starts, you build explosive power, you recover strategically. Elon's the same. If he started over, he'd obsess over the 20% of tasks that create 80% of results. No distractions, no busy work, just ruthless prioritization. Here's a curveball. He'd embrace useless relationships. Wait, what? Yep. When you're climbing back, it's tempting to network with important people. But Elon's genius? He talks to engineers, janitors, interns, the people doing the work. They see the leaks, the cracks, the opportunities. In sports, your team isn't just the star players, it's the physios, the nutritionists, the guy who tapes your ankles. They're the ones who keep you in the game. He'd also redefine risk. Most people think risk is losing money, time, reputation. But the biggest risk? Stagnation? Complacency? Elon's failed spectacularly. Rockets blew up. Companies nearly collapsed. But stagnation? That's death. If he lost everything, he'd take bigger risks, but calculated ones, like a climber with a safety harness. You fall, you learn, you adjust, but you keep climbing. and he'd master the art of storytelling. Wait, storytelling? Absolutely. Tesla isn't selling cars, it's selling a future. SpaceX isn't launching rockets, it's selling interplanetary life. If Elon started over, he'd make you believe in his vision before he even built it. In sports, we call this champion mindset. You don't just win the game, you convince yourself you've already won. Then you pull everyone else into that story. He'd also get obsessed with feedback loops. In training, feedback loops are everything. Heart rate monitors, video replays, split times. If Elon lost everything, he'd measure everything. Not to micromanage, to iterate, to fail fast, to adjust. Most people avoid metrics because they're scared of the truth. But you know what's scarier? Flying blind. Finally, and this is critical, he'd protect his optimism like a vault. Cynicism is easy. Pessimism is easy. But optimism? That's a discipline. Elon's been laughed at, mocked, dismissed. But he still bets on humanity colonizing Mars. If he lost everything tomorrow, he'd wake up and say, "Cool, let's build something better." Because optimism isn't naivety, it's fuel. So, what's the takeaway? It's not about money, rockets, or fame. It's about the playbook we all have access to. Start before you're ready. Bet on truth. Train your mind like your life depends on it. And never ever let the world convince you that your comeback isn't possible. Because here's the thing, Elon's not special. He's just relentless. And that's a choice.